Hello and welcome. I just want to take a quick moment to inform you about the disclaimer. The views, opinions, and statements expressed on the Rascals Lounge podcast are solely those of the host and guests and do not reflect the views of any organization, employer, or sponsor. This podcast is provided as is and is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. All discussions, including politics, professional sports, esports pros and organizations, content creators, music, medicine, law, science, psychology, herbal medicine, supplements, cannabis, nicotine, alcohol, religious leaders, faith-based discussions, and related topics are based on publicly available information, personal experience, or personal opinion. Any references to public figures, political parties, politicians, athletes, organizations, religious groups, or any individual, living or deceased, are opinion-based and not intended as factual claims or statements that could harm reputations. No statements made on this podcast are intended to defame, discredit, or harm the reputation of any person, group, political party, religious faith, or entity. The host and guests expressly disclaim any and all liability for defamation, libel, slander, or misinterpretation of commentary provided. This podcast does not provide professional advice of any kind. Content from doctors, scientists, psychologists, attorneys, athletes, religious leaders, politicians, or other professionals, including discussions of health, training, injuries, performance, herbal remedies, supplements, cannabis, nicotine, alcohol, or alternative treatments, is for general informational purposes only. Listeners should never start, stop, or alter any medication, treatment plan, religious practice, legal action, financial decision, or substance use based on something heard on this podcast without first consulting a licensed professional or qualified advisor in the relevant field. The host and guests make no representations or warranties regarding the accuracy, completeness, or suitability of information presented and disclaim any responsibility for errors, omissions, or outcomes resulting from the use of this content. The podcast and its content are provided as is, without any express or implied warranties of any kind. By listening, reading, or otherwise accessing this podcast, you acknowledge and agree that the Rascals Lounge podcast, its host, and its guests shall not be held liable for any interpretations, actions, or consequences arising from the content of this program. Listeners are strongly encouraged to think critically, conduct their own research, and form independent judgments before acting on anything discussed. Listener discretion is advised. Thank you and enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Rascals Lounge podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rascals Lounge podcast. Well, today we got a special guest. Guys, she's very special, and she is very familiar with politics. She's even worked with several presidents, and I'm going to just give the stage to her so she could let you know who she is and what she's all about. Kay Daly. Kay, how you doing?
Thank you so much for having me on today, Jeff. I'm sort of the Forrest Gump of politics. I wind up in the most bizarre situations, sometimes historic, sometimes scandal-ridden, but nonetheless, that's what I did for a living. I was a crisis communicator, a strategic communicator. That became my specialty after many years in the trenches. I've been involved in politics since 1986, and I've worked with presidents. I haven't worked in the White House, but I've worked on Capitol Hill, both in the Senate and House side. I've been a chief of staff. I've worked for several prominent folks, and I've worked in Hollywood. I've worked in campaigns. I've worked in the private sector, and the crisis communications became my specialty. Think Olivia Pope from Scandal.
Wow. That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
You
I
got a
got to
lot
take
on
it to
your
my
plate.
grave, okay? I got to take a lot of this stuff to my grave.
Yeah.
Because you know where the bodies are buried? That's not always a good thing at all.
Wow. Wow, you got into politics and that's been
86 during the Reagan years.
Yes.
It was an
How
internship.
was it working with Reagan and back then?
Well, my parents actually, because I was born in Los Angeles, my parents lived in Pacific Palisades, and they got to know the Reagans before he even ran for governor. My dad was a prominent banker in Pacific Palisades. My mom was, housewife, married to another person, and then they met actually at a Reagan campaign function. So thank God for Reagan. I'm here.
Yeah.
But it can't say that I was overtly political all of my life. My mother was always involved in something, but it wasn't, politics at all. But I was dating a guy that my mother didn't like. She's from Texas. What does a good Southern mother do when her daughter is dating someone she doesn't like? She made a phone call, and I had my first internship in Washington, D.C. in a press office for then Senator Pete Wilson from California. He's one of the two United States senators from California, and it was my first understanding that there was more to communications than just journalism and being on the side of reporting stories. You could actually make news happen.
Mm.
And going to DC within the first week, I swear, Jeff, I was like, Brad who? By like the end of the first week, I had Potomac fever right then and there. It's not so much loving the city, it was loving the excitement of it, being in the center of news for the world.
Yeah.
And knowing, I mean, they think they cure cancer up there. Let's be real. They don't, but it was the start of a journey, and internships I'm very, very positive about because it tells you what you don't want to do as much as what you do want to do. And this was the first time that I'd hit upon something that I thought I was pretty good at and that felt good. I'd had internships before in Hollywood. I'd worked on Dukes of Hazzard, worked on Hill Street Blues, and I thought, these people are nuts. I want out. They're crazy. So out of the frying pan, into the fire, went to Hollywood for Ugly People, and DC just became a learning experience with some really terrific mentors. But then I also made sure that I left often enough so you keep perspective when you leave. If you
Correct.
stay there, you drink the water, believe your own press releases, believe you're all fired important, and you lose touch with what is really important to the American people.
Wow.
And so I made sure I had some great advice when I first got there. I was walking with someone up to one of the House or Senate office buildings, and it was a beautiful blue sky behind that sparkling white dome of the Capitol. It really can be beautiful. And I looked, I said, man, that's a beautiful day. Look at this. And look at that Capitol dome. And he looked at me and said, when you don't look at the Capitol dome and feel shivers down your spine and you don't have awe for what you're doing here and your place in it, that's the time to leave. When it becomes just regular and normal. And that was really good advice. It keeps you humble. It keeps you understanding. You work for the people of the state or the district that your boss represents. And you're not perfect. And you need to remember who your bosses are. After working in this California office, I realized, wow, this press secretary, communications director thing, that's cool. But I was told that there weren't that many females. And I'm not a feminist by any stretch of the imagination. But hearing that, it had never crossed my mind that because I'm a female, there was something I couldn't do in the job world. I knew there's some things I didn't want to do. But this was something I knew I could do. And so I thought, well, Mary Madeline is right down the street at the RNC, and she seems to be doing okay as communications director. I'm going to give it a shot there, boss. So I went back to California. They asked me to work on Senator Wilson's reelect for Senate. And then he changed his mind after he got elected and decided to run for governor of California. And they asked me to work on that. So while I was finishing up college at UCSD, I worked there and did every kind of extracurricular, just learning as much as I could about my craft. They gave me a lot of opportunities for an intern. They really did. When Tiananmen Square happened, the senator asked me to go to the San Diego Memorial for that and give his statement in front of this massive audience there. That was one of my first times on TV. That didn't appeal to me as much, though, as the message crafting. But I still, you're a kid, you're just not quite graduated. You it's not that you take advantage, it's that you don't take it as seriously as you could at times. My boss was wonderful. He sat me down because he knew I was goofing up, and he said, Kay, in this business, in this job, people have to be able to count on you. That hit me right between the eyes, and I've sort of carried that as a mantra ever since. So counting on me, whether it's a client who brings to me a crisis, a scandal, or something, they have to be able to count on the fact that they can trust me, that I'm a vault. One. The media has to be able to count on the fact that I'm telling the truth, that I have a reputation for truth, that you have a reputation for doing what you say you're going to do. And that goes with any job, obviously. But especially in politics, you gain credibility literally by the teaspoon, and you lose it by the wheelbarrow quickly.
Wow.
So I had a real lesson, and this was before I even graduated from college, right? So right after, most of my friends after college, they were They were going on the European tour. They were taking time off. Within a week, I packed my little bags, didn't tell my parents, and I tucked in some resumes. Said, I'm just going to go back to Washington, D.C. and see some friends. Not a problem. Within 2 weeks, I had a job with Senator Phil Gramm of Texas.
Wow.
And most, I hate to say this, most gals at the time, they would get administrative gigs, scheduling. I got into the projects office in Senator Phil Gramm's office. The way the projects office was set up, there were two of us who divided all of the executive branch agencies and departments. He had half of them. I had half of them. Then we had someone in the office who worked on nominations, U.S. Marshals, U.S. attorneys, federal judges. And that was, and then we had the projects director. My job was to work with university presidents, CEOs, county judges, city managers, housing directors. I had everything from NASA to the Department of Justice, everything in between, education department, you name it. I had, 30 some agencies and everything in the state of Texas, all 256 counties. That was my job. And getting grants and funding back to the state of Texas, working on grants and funding or projects or problems. And then making sure that Senator Phil Gramm would get the credit for doing it. So I worked with the press department. I worked with the senator. I worked with all of these muckety mucks. And here I am, 23 years old?
Wow.
But it was an education in how the executive branch works or doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
So I learned this roadmap starting then. It was amazing. Phil Gramm, economics professor from Texas A&M, hilariously funny. He's like a John Kennedy. It was like getting a PhD in politics. And then having, President H.W. Bush in the White House, we had a guy who claimed Texas is his home. We were the Republican senator from Texas. And I learned all kinds of things about how to make bureaucrats do what you need them to do.
Wow.
Because sometimes they could be difficult,
Yeah.
not helpful. So there were a lot of ways to make sure that they knew the senator was watching. For example, putting them on the phone all of a sudden with them, with the United States senator, or asking, what's your phone number? I need to tell the senator that you told me no, and you're going to give it to our Democrat seatmate here, Lloyd Benson, but not to us. And we're in the president's home state and we're the lead Republican senator, but you're going to give it to Lloyd. Okay, I need to talk to the senator. He's not going to be happy. So can I have your direct line? He's probably going to want to pick up the phone. All of a sudden, the floodgates would open and nirvana, I would get what I needed. So I recognized early on that Republicans weren't necessarily your friends and Democrats weren't necessarily your enemies. That was a big thing. And you realized if you trusted, you would get flanked. At the same time, if you didn't trust and you didn't show some grace, you'd also ruin a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it was working for him was great. I loved it, still love the man. But then I got the opportunity to work in the private sector, working with police officers. At the time, I want to say Clinton had just been elected, perhaps. They were moving like a lot of military hardware and stuff that they didn't want anymore to try and give it to cops and sheriff's departments and all of that. So that was a department I helped set up at Booz Allen and Hamilton to try and get that done. So I spent a lot of time on ride-alongs in Miami and tri-state regional task forces and just hanging out with law enforcement. But then I got a really great gig in the state of Texas. I was asked to be chief of staff for a guy named Tex Lazar. Tex had been the youngest chief of staff in the Department of Justice in the first Reagan administration. And he was also Assistant Attorney General for the Office of Legal Policy. They handled federal judges. Tex was this genius who went to Yale with George W. Bush, knew, all these folks. And he had started the Texas Public Policy Foundation. He was starting up a school choice foundation in Texas. He was rewriting his book, Making Government Work, A Conservative Agenda for the States, which is the first and only book since Reagan left office that he did the forward for. We had 5 living United States presidents who gave jacket quotes. And my job was also to edit that book and literally organize the man's life. Then he decided to run for lieutenant governor when George W. Bush ran for governor. That was a knockdown, drag-out fight where, again, I learned pretty quickly that it's not the wins that teach you things, it's the losses that teach you
Yes.
things.
So true. I want to take a quick moment and talk to you about Gamer Advantage. Whether you're gaming, working, or just browsing, with Gamer Advantage blue light blocking eyewear, they are expertly crafted for gamers or for anyone that's in front of a screen for long hours. Featuring Resume Lens technology, these glasses are engineered to minimize digital eye strain and shield your eyes from the detrimental effects of blue light. Doctor recommended, potentially boost focus, and significantly enhance sleep quality, ensuring you stay at the top of your game. Visit gameradvantage.com for more information and use promo code RASCALS at checkout to get 10% off your purchase. I do earn a commission when you use the promo code, which helps sustain and grow the podcast. Once again, visit gameradvantage.com for more information and use promo code RASCALS at checkout to get 10% off your purchase.
I mean, this man had worked for Nixon as a speechwriter. He had worked for William F. Buckley, the godfather of conservatism, as, again, another writer for him in National Review. He had such an amazing resume, and yet his problem was the same as folks like Ted Cruz, like DeSantis, so smart that it didn't connect with, like, us mere mortals.
Correct.
But I learned also from his wife, from Tex's wife, who was media director in the Reagan White House. I learned how to do media coaching, crisis. I started learning crisis communications from her, and all the things that made Ronald Reagan the great communicator. I started to really dive down and learn those things, whether it's being a speechwriter, whether it's learning the voice of your client, how to predict crises, how it's going to go, how to strategize and play it out on a chessboard, how to understand who the opponent is and how they're going to hurt you in what way. So then 1994 happened, and for the first time, Republicans took the gavel and the majority in the House of Representatives. First time in 45 years. And I thought, I got to be there. Newt Gingrich became the speaker. And again, learning from him, I was put into an office by a friend who, it was a tough race, Democrat-leaning district. They needed help. It was a pure crisis gig. But learning from folks like Newt Gingrich, priceless. Priceless. That was one of those brilliant minds that could communicate with the average American and do it well. So I also met a whole circle of folks in this conservative movement in Washington, D.C. It became and not a family. It's almost like there's layers of political friends like an onion. There are different layers to personal friends, political friends, there are all kinds of different layers. But meeting all these folks and all these different organizations, whether they were think tanks, on the Hill, in leadership, in the White House, in lobbying firms, whatever it was, the Rolodex exploded. And that was expansive. Now, they wanted me to move down to North Carolina to do hand-to-hand combat with my boss's media issues. So I did. And that's when I met my husband, who was in UNC Chapel Hill Law School.
Wow.
So everything that happens along the way kind of happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, it was, he graduated, worked on a couple of campaigns, worked as a communications director for the North Carolina GOP, just working different angles of it, working in a private firm there that, again, gave me even more experience. Then we came back up to Washington, D.C., and that's when I started working on federal judges. I had been asked when President George W. Bush took office to help develop a strategy for John Ashcroft, who was going to be AG, to be confirmed. They thought it was be their hardest confirmation. So I decided to go on offense because the Dems aren't used to us going on offense. And we had a massive press conference. I called all of these folks in this Rolodex of mine. Hundreds of organizations showed up. We did it on a Monday, which was a big no-no for press conferences then. And they were on their knees, literally on defense on the left for the rest of the week. They had to catch up to where we were. When that happened, I was asked by several folks to consider doing the same thing for federal judges, for federal judicial nominations. And we'd never done that. We'd been through Bob Bork, who was rejected for the Supreme Court. We'd been through Clarence Thomas, who was really dirtied up. But we had never mounted an offense or tried to educate the American people about why federal judges matter. But what difference does it make, right? I thought, first of all, I'm 7 months pregnant at the time. Can I just go have my baby and, breathe for a bit? No, wasn't allowed to. So
Wow.
we started this, but even the White House had its doubts that we would be successful at it. We made it the number one issue above even 9/11 and Iraq in that first reelect campaign for Bush. Number one polled issue. And what I did was I put together a coalition, a center-right coalition, folks who might not even ever agree with each other, but they agreed that they wanted constitutionalist judges. Worked on that for about 10 years. Rejected some folks. Knew a good judge from a bad judge. I was supposed to be the tip of the spear and say things that these white shoe lawyer dinosaurs up in D.C. couldn't say or wouldn't say. So I was the one who was on the street fighting against the National Organization for Women or Planned Parenthood or People for the American Way or the ACLU or any one of these guys. And we were very successful. In fact, our message points are still coming back to us. I have regrets about some judges, for sure. I don't regret Alito. I regret Roberts, but I don't regret Alito. But all of that is a learning experience. And all this to say, when I finally did leave Washington for a bit and go down to down to North Carolina, I was asked to run for Congress. And I did so reluctantly. I was redistricted out, but we still beat this woman who was a Republican, in quotes, but she had forgotten who she worked for. And she was just nasty to her constituents. And I don't put up with that very well. But we did manage to have a candidate in there that I gave all my opposition research to. She gone. And I thought that would be, after that, not a problem. I've got kids to manage and all of that. I've had a full career. I've worked, with the White House, several White Houses. I've worked with industry. I've done this and that. Time to look for the kids. Well, I did. And I stayed home for a while. Just, doing little things here and there, nothing big. But then every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in. And, my husband, as an attorney, he was successful in his own right. He worked on Senate Judiciary Committee as a senior counsel. He was a chief of staff on Capitol Hill. He just a genius kind of a guy. Well, when we went down to North Carolina, he was starting to think about how he could do this next part of his career. And he'd worked with several different folks. Well, that's the next part of the story because my family got hit by lawfare.
Oh, geez.
Hard. Because when you're good at what you do, the left will come after you because they have to take you off the board so you're not hurting their agenda.
Now, question. You noticed that in different times, eras in your life, in your career, the Democrats were changing more radical, like from the Reagan era,
Yeah.
from the Bush eras.
Yeah.
You noticed like they were progressing, getting more
Clinton,
radical, more
yeah.
radical, more radical. And it's just
Well,
like they're
yeah.
getting like more like what the world's happening to you guys? You guys weren't like this in the 80s.
No, or even the 90s to a large degree. I mean, look, when I started in politics, you couldn't even call your opponent a liar. That was unseemly. You just didn't do that. No, never. Now look at it. Now, there are folks actually breaking federal law out there by threatening the very life of the president. And I don't really care what party you are in. There has to be a level of respect, at least for the office of the presidency.
Correct.
I mean, that's important. And even though, as much as I dislike President Biden or whoever, I would still call him Mr. President and be absolutely respectful because he's earned that. You don't get to be the President of the United States just on a whim. So that's an old school way of thinking, though, in a lot of ways. But what you're seeing here, actually, Jeff, is a realignment. And it's happened before, but this one is drastic. You've got the old left, the new left, and the what's left. And it's the what's left you got to look out for in this.
Yeah, because I'm like, okay, wait 1 second. Back when Obama was in office, I don't remember people being this radical.
Oh, yeah.
And being, to the point of disrespecting the president. And God forbid if you do, because if you do, boom, you're labeled as a racist.
Well, also, just threatening the life of the president is a federal offense.
Oh, that's a federal offense.
It
now
is.
People just do it like if
Exactly.
anything.
Exactly. And this kind of coarsening of the culture, actually, Judge Bob Bork did a really, really good book called Slouching Towards Gomorrah. It's a play on the old Sodom and Gomorrah. And it was a coarsening of the culture. There used to be that you could disagree on the floor of the House or Senate, then go get a beer after. Didn't matter.
Correct.
classic liberals are now considered conservatives. The most radical part of any party doesn't usually win presidencies because they're the ones who may get you through a primary, but winning a general, you have to build a better coalition, a bigger coalition to win that. And a lot of the folks on either side who are extreme don't play well with others. And that's the real problem. Right now, what the Democrats are facing is difficulty fundraising. Fundraising is crashing for them for a number of reasons. Voter registration numbers are way down. Polling numbers, way down. And it's because they painted themselves into a communications corner. They're defending criminals, crime, fentanyl, narco terrorists, open borders, unhealthy America and unhealthy Americans. They are instead defending everything but regular, average, hardworking, tax-paying Americans. And that's not a message that's going to it's going to do well. The fact that I have to sign a stack of paperwork to get when she was under 18, my teenage daughter ears pierced, and I have to be there and give blood practically, but they could take her, cut body parts off, feed her full of hormones and call her Larry and not tell me a thing. That's a bridge too far for damn near anybody. And this didn't start with Biden. It started years ago and kept ramping up and kept ramping up. Then there's the lawfare, the weaponization of the justice system, the ignoring of basic constitutional rights, except if you're apparently here illegally. The misunderstanding of all of this because they also took away civics classes. They don't teach history anymore. So they've dumbed down the population and they don't know these basic rights. September 17th is going to be Constitution Day again. Okay, it's September 17th every year. And I try to encourage parents, grandparents, read the Constitution on that day. Read it together, understand it, know what your rights are. And that's the perfect day to do it, more than anything. And not too many people do, but I do every year. And on the 4th of July, I read the Declaration of Independence. So these are ways that you can bring civics back and bring history back. The best thing that happened, quite frankly, in many ways, was Donald Trump in 2020 not putting his hand on that Bible and having 4 years to understand how to defeat the deep state, how to fix the nature and the substance and the workings of government, not just merely pretty words and promises, but actually changing the way government works and the way it operates. That's the first time in 40 years I can actually say I've seen that now. And this is, nobody will believe me who's not involved in politics. This is at lightning speed. Thank God he had those 4 years. Thank God. And in some ways, the best thing that came out of COVID, people were at home and they were Googling. And they were starting to say to themselves, I don't think CNN and MSNBC and the mainstream, they're not telling me the truth here. This doesn't seem to work out, right?
Yeah,
People
something's
woke
not
up.
adding up.
People were waking up and they don't want to be lied to anymore. But part of the PTSD from that is feeling like they're still being lied to all the time. And I'm not saying there aren't plenty of lies and disingenuous folks in DC. But this is a real sea change, huge. And the fact that all of this has happened in just 8 months? You could have 8 years of any other president, and I defy you to find as much activity as what's been happening. You won't find it. You won't find it. So,
Wow, that's wild. That's really wild.
it's
I mean,
crazy.
so many things is gone on, and I truly believe everything happens for a reason. If Trump would have won those in 2020, I don't know how it would be today, and I don't know who would be elected
It'd
as
be a
president.
continuation of
Yeah.
the deep state. He ran into the buzzsaw of the deep state, which was my concern when he first ran. I thought, oh my God, he doesn't know what he's getting into. This is a wood
He
chipper.
did not. He did not. He thought everything was going to be, flowing
No.
pretty good because he was a former Democrat. And then I think he assumed that everybody's going to be, friends.
No.
But once he came in and he
Came down
became
that elevator
president.
and all hell broke loose.
Everything broke loose. Now he was called a racist. He was called a fascist. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What the heck is going
Exactly.
on here?
Exactly.
What
How do
is
you get called
actually
a
going on here?
Yeah, how
And
do you
it's
get
so much
called
hatred.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh,
then
yeah.
the lies that were caught on TV, on the news media, and they were just spilling out lies. And I was like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Did these people really wanted Hillary to win?
Yes. Yes, that was the
It
plan.
was so bad they wanted her to win that they just
Yeah.
and they're still upset about it.
They are remember, when he came down that escalator, he had NAACP awards, right, of the year. All of a sudden, he was a racist, a bigot, a sexist, a homophobe. None of it fit. The one thing you got to understand about Donald Trump, he's not an ideologue, okay? You can't really call him a classic conservative. That's not his bag. He's also not a
Right.
classic Democrat. That's not his bag. What drives Donald Trump is winning.
Mm,
Art of the deal.
sure.
That's what he wants to do, is win. So you don't have this typical politician ideological drive that you usually get. And instead you have someone who just wants to win for the American people and bring the power back to us. And it doesn't sound revolutionary. Guarantee you it is. Guarantee you it is. Plus, that 4 years in between gave him and the America First Foundation the opportunity to dive in and see not just policy fixes, but structural fixes to the government that had to be done in order for any policy fix to happen. Remember, when a new administration comes in, the president has 4,000, give or take a few, political appointments. 4,000. They are surrounded by 2.6 million career bureaucrats, many of whom used to be political appointees, and they burrow in to the career bureaucrat positions, and you can't fire them. It's an act of Congress to fire these career bureaucrats. They do not serve at the pleasure of the president. It's not an at-will employment situation.
Mhm.
He's changing that, and he's doing it through Article 2 as a chief executive. There's other ways to do that, though. If you look at the 1978 Civil Service Reform Act, he could do it by executive order. He could remove the protections, making them fireable. Doesn't want to do that yet. I think he's holding it in his back pocket.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a game of chess.
Constantly.
Yeah, and he's playing it
Constantly.
really good.
He is. He's not perfect. No man is.
Yeah, he's not perfect at all.
No,
He's
not at
perfect
all.
And I tell people, there's some things that he's done that I don't kind of agree with, but there's
Right.
a lot of it I agree. It's like
better
with
than
any other
Kamala.
president. Yeah, I don't think Kamala was fit. I think she was thrown in there. Probably she didn't want to even be in there, and she was just thrown in.
She's indecisive, a poor communicator, not terribly bright, and apparently has a drinking problem. But besides that, sure, she's a lovely lady. This was someone who should never have been put in that position, ever,
Yeah.
ever. DEI, higher, didn't earn it. And this was someone who, we nearly Thelma and Louised this. Okay, we really did. We came so close on so many fronts, whether it's foreign affairs, the economy, the border, health, everything was in free fall. And to put the brakes on this fast, it's a miracle what's happened at the border. It's a miracle what he's been able to do with all the executive orders and all of this. It is a miracle with all the press, Hollywood, universities, a well-funded left that's cornered animals right now. He's had everything against him, and yet he tried to kill him, bankrupt him, put him in jail. They've tried everything, and they haven't succeeded because there are so many good Americans out there who love their country, know that something, just instinctively, they know something's wrong. And they have PTSD from being lied to for so many years. But this is, I can't emphasize enough what a miracle this has been. And it's only going to get better. Yeah, it's going to be 2 steps forward, 1 step back at times.
Correct.
It's the nature of the game. But we're taking many more steps forward. I actually heard the other day, Jeff, with this redistricting stuff that's going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the states that are doing this, I've heard we could gain net in terms of seats between 7 and 13 House seats just from redistricting.
Wow.
Make my day.
Wow.
The toughest job right now in Washington, D.C. is Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House. He's got a razor-thin margin. He's herding cats on crack up there, okay? You cannot get a Representative Don Bacon, and a Marjorie Taylor Greene to agree on anything. You can't. So you've got folks on the right who are pissed off that you're running after trying to corral folks on the left who are playing with the Dems, and then you got people milling about the middle. Cats on crack. It's not Mike's fault for things that are going on in the House, okay? It really isn't.
True.
He is actually doing a remarkable job, all things considered. And I know it's frustrating, but that's the nature of what the Founding Fathers set up, was a confrontational system. We do not demand on our side to march in lockstep, okay? We don't. On the left, they do. And it's actually institutionalized in both the House and the Senate. The House Republican Conference is different than the House Democratic Caucus. Different rules. They have the same thing in the Senate. Senate Democrat Caucus, Senate Republican Conference. A conference is different than a caucus. A caucus has requirements in terms of voting, in terms of, and there are real penalties for not going along with it. Okay? Real penalties for not marching in lockstep. The conference has no such rules or requirements. So you've got these policy things that have to be explained to a group of people who have PTSD from being lied to, and they think, off with Mike Johnson's head. No, you could put Donald Trump in there. It wouldn't matter. In that seat with the gavel. It wouldn't matter at all.
I was told that's the toughest seat there to work.
It is. It's the hardest seat right now because he has a razor-thin majority. You cannot demand. I mean, you're going to get Thomas Massey to go along with, I don't know, Chip Roy. It's not going to happen. And so you have to negotiate everything, absolutely everything. The fact that the big, beautiful bill passed, again, miracle.
That wasn't. I think he had a lot to do with it. Help out.
Trump did, absolutely. And
you don't think Mike Johnson had a lot to do with it?
Oh, no, he did. He absolutely did. That was amazing. But Trump had a lot to do with it, too, right? He made phone calls. I mean, he was very hands-on. I don't like everything in the big, beautiful bill. I know it's a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
It's a Christmas tree bill. It's what we used to call it when everybody hangs an ornament.
I think of it as medicine. It tastes bad, but it does good on some other end.
Exactly. So a lot of what I've been doing, for example, on my shows on X, on my podcast, I'm trying to, it's a process orientation, how the process works. And you can't Google your way into it. You can't take a class about it. You can't read a book on it. You literally have to experience it because none of it makes sense. Okay. It's not about common sense at all. And this is what Elon Musk found, right? When he came into doing Doge, he's about 4 years behind Trump in terms of learning. He's a CEO and a billionaire, comes in, he thinks, it's just going to be like where I work. People are going to do what I want them to do. No.
No.
No. Welcome to the deep state, brother.
Yeah. It's not about how much money you got now, but
it doesn't matter. And that's what frustrated him. He's not used to that.
Yeah.
Right? So
he's not used to getting his way.
Exactly. So he was frustrated. He didn't understand it. And until you experience it, you wouldn't believe it. It's not a conspiracy theory. I've witnessed the deep state for 4 decades. This is, oh, hell no.
That's the biggest question a lot of people ask. I even heard it on Joe Rogan.
Really?
What is the deep state?
Okay. The deep state is not necessarily like the Hillary Clintons, the big names. The deep state are those nameless, faceless people who have slithered from one administration to another, okay, and caused damage. And they're the kingmakers. They're the staffers. They're the behind-the-scenes guys. Those are the ones you have to look out for.
Okay. The ones that twist arms?
No, but they're real. It's the career bureaucrats. And in some ways, it's also the staff on Capitol Hill, okay? This is why I'm not for necessarily, I mean, term limits, great, do what you want, right?
Yeah.
But elections to me are term limits. And all you would do with term limits is empower staff. Because they're the ones who go from office to office. They're the only ones who are going to know where the bathrooms are. I mean, It's not an easy system to learn. And why empower those folks who have so much contempt for the people they supposedly work for, right?
So, what's your thoughts on term limits? Because there's some people
I'm not against it, but I also have a
in politics
problem
way
in
too
terms.
many years. I'm like, Nancy Pelosi should have been out a long time ago, and all these Schumer as well. I mean,
Oh, I
hello,
know. What about the Texas member who's been in a nursing home and no one knew it for a year? I mean, look, I understand that. I understand the impetus, and that's not going to solve the problem because, again, you've got staff who are going to go just to the new offices. They're the problems as much as anything. That's part of the deep state, too. Okay? They're going to be the ones guiding, these new members because they aren't going to know what to do when, right? They have no clue. It's not the apex that we have to worry about. Okay? This notion that AIPAC is the problem for everything is nuts to me. They're like number 172 on the power rankings of lobbyists. That's not the problem. I guarantee you that these congressmen and senators are not sitting there with little green eye shades saying, okay, what checks did I get into? No. They are not guided so much by that. There are different agendas. And to broad brush and say, oh, there's an apex minder in every office. No. You want to know where the real power in lobbying is? Pharmaceutical industry, the medical industry, the trial lawyers, the unions, the military-industrial complex. You want to see big boys and big money? That's where it is. The tech bros, okay? All of these have massive, much more influence. Realtors, the Realtors Association. AIPAC? What?
Yeah.
When I first heard that, I was like,
close.
what are you people talking about? Yeah. No, that is not what's going on. But these kinds of explanations have to be made. And I'm not excusing the bad activities on Capitol Hill. I'm not excusing what we don't agree with President Trump. What I'm trying to do is at least educate in terms of what the process is. How does it work? Why doesn't it work? Why does this happen? What does it mean when there's a cloture vote versus a final passage vote? What are all these committees and why do they work that way? Why don't we have a single issue bill? Yeah. There are times I want to sit there and sing Scholastic Rock, how I'm just a bill, I'm only a bill. But it really is a challenge when they've taken away history, so you have no historical context. People don't read philosophy anymore, so they don't read political philosophy. And then even worse, you've got a real issue with nobody knowing civics.
Yeah.
Okay? And when you don't know civics, when you don't know the things that give you the rights that were fought and died for by so many people, so much blood are in those documents. And when we don't know those, we're not full Americans. We're not full citizens. We aren't taking full advantage and leaving a legacy to our kids and grandkids of truly a remarkable, as Ronald Reagan said, shining city on the hill. We are the last best hope of humanity. We absolutely are, as he said in his speech, A Rendezvous with Destiny. And either we are going to give them a true future that has a constitution intact, rule of law intact, our freedoms intact, more federalism, so the government in some far-off city isn't guiding us, but closer to us that we control and we know about. That's the best kind of government, is local. And the idea that people think there's some kind of geniuses up there, let me assure you they're not.
Yeah.
I wish they were.
Question, if Trump is not able to clean up the swamp within this 4 years, you think J.D. Vance, if he wins, is going to be able to? See, with J.D., I have my little doubts with him. I don't know. He came out of nowhere. I don't know. Vivek is not around. He's going to be in Ohio. And then I'm like thinking, who else could run and actually do really good?
I'll tell you this. When JD's name started getting floated, I started looking back at all this. And I was familiar with him because of Hillbilly Elegy. I'd read the book, seen the movie, and I was intrigued. But I hadn't really done a deep dive study on him. Watching him as a communicator, this is a guy who is the best extemporaneous communicator, the best guy on his feet in nearly any situation that I've seen, maybe ever. I think he's better than Obama. I think he's better than Clinton. I think he's better in many ways than Reagan. Okay. And the
And
reason why,
communicating
yeah, and communicate. That's
more
a
than Vivek.
huge, yeah, absolutely. Here's why. JD is approachable. He doesn't get ruffled or, he doesn't get hostile, even though he gets majorly hostile questions. He's incredibly smart. And he isn't just good at one thing. He isn't just good at giving a speech, doing a podcast, doing the Sunday shows, doing a press conference. He's good at it all of it. And he could sit there for 2 hours and shoot the shit with, a Tim Pool, a Charlie Kirk, whoever. And he looks just as comfortable, and he makes you feel comfortable watching it.
Right.
And so watching this guy, I realized that he's being thrown into a hell of a situation. His potential boss nearly was assassinated days before. He's got the Republican National Convention, and the speechwriters for him don't have his voice yet. And when you're writing a speech for someone, it's not what you like. You have to write it in their voice, in their cadence, so that they sound comfortable, natural, authentic, all of that, right? So I knew that the first speech wouldn't be great. The magic happened when people realized, damn, this guy is good on his feet. He's good in these little pressers that he's doing all over the place. He's good at the rallies. As they gained his voice, and he sort of guided and took over and had people ask from the audience questions in the rallies, and going up to the plane where Kamala's plane was parked. Oh, yeah, I'm going to be taking that in a minute. Got the keys, these are the things, the moments that people like me live for, and recognizing, and then the debate. Because folks were questioning me, what do you think? Is JD going to be good? I said, wait till the debate. Just wait.
Mm-hmm.
Just wait. Because this is not something that is taught also. There are a lot of people who can be taught. Their problems can be minimized in terms of communications, and their good stuff can be enhanced. You can't make everybody Ronald Reagan or Rush Limbaugh, but you can knock some of the dust off, the rust off, and some of the edges off. But you aren't going to change who they are.
Correct.
It's very rare to see someone who is a natural communicator. This wasn't from going to law school. This wasn't from being media trained. I know the hallmarks of that. No, this is natural. And that's why you see the consistency in the way he responds to things. Whether he's walking down the hall talking to someone, he doesn't get ruffled.
He doesn't.
No matter how hostile. And that's a beautiful thing. He has a beautiful family, a great dog.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the package. Am I saying that he is perfect? No. Again, no.
Nobody's perfect.
No. But I think he's one of the best shots at inheriting the mantle of what Donald Trump is trying to accomplish. And I know that folks may like other candidates. I get that. And it's a long time away. It's a lifetime in politics. And yet it may as well be 10 minutes at the same time. It's a weird time thing that goes on. But I am not as worried about 2028 as I once would have been. And I'm not really as worried about the midterms as I once would have been.
I'm a little bit worried about the midterms. I don't know.
We have to get out and vote, okay? We have
Yeah.
to get out there and do the work. But we're doing things again on the state and local level, which are really revolutionary for us. We're doing those organizational things that we weren't really doing well before. And it's not being dependent on by the party. It's real people getting there. The Scott Presslers, the Brandon Strocks, the people, Charlie Kirks, the people who are getting out there and doing the real work and mobilizing an army. And so it's an echo chamber of what we believe and what we hope people will join. And realize that there's freedom in not having to march in lockstep. Believe what you want to believe. If you're with me on the goal, come on along. They're doing it beautifully, and yet they're also putting the infrastructure in place to win elections.
Yeah.
And it's a complex series of things, whether you win or lose an election. I'm not as concerned as I was because I'm seeing those things happen. Doesn't mean we don't have to work hard, okay? But you also have to understand, even if it doesn't go 100% the way we want it to, that's when you double down and you
Mhm.
go into loyal opposition mode. I don't care if we win or we lose, I'm always going to double down. Always.
Yeah, you got to
Whether
go
I'm in office.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think in the midterms, my thing there, I know the Democrats are gonna go hardcore with the Epstein thing, which
Let them.
they still are now,
Let
and
them.
they're gonna go hardcore with Bondi for the mistake she made by
Cool.
saying that she had the list and all this stuff, and that's the part that I'm saying,
There is no
okay,
list.
I never believed there was
No, there's
because
not a list.
this is what I said, and I even talked about this with a couple of my friends. I said, if he did anything illegal, trust me, they would have exposed it before election, and
Yeah. You gonna tell me that
Kamala would have
Obama
won like immediately,
Yeah, you're
but
gonna
they
tell me that
didn't.
the Obama FBI and the Biden FBI and their justice departments, that Merrick Garland and Eric Holder, the two attorney generals, one for Biden and one for Obama, you're telling me that they wouldn't have gone after Trump if they had anything. Okay,
Anything.
so that's number one. Number two, I I understand the whole passion behind the sex trafficking. We have to help the victims. I have friends who've been working, kicking down doors and changing legislation and cleaning out the State Department and all kinds of things for decades. Okay. I understand the
Mhm.
danger, the passion behind it, and all of that. What I want to know is if we don't trust the government, okay, we tend to not trust the government on our side. Why are you going to trust anything that they're going to release to you? That's been in a chain of custody that is dubious at best, with intelligence, 18 different intelligence agencies hell bent on destroying us. Why in the world would you trust for a second anything they had to put out? Okay? I just don't. I tend to look side eyed at it. To me, and what's it going to do in terms of changing your world? I'm not a door kicker. How is it going to change? To me, more important are things. Donald Trump right now is telling a story of how all this happened. Russia came first, right? All this Russia stuff.
Yeah.
Then you move into the Hunter Biden laptop. Then you move into the 2020 elections and COVID. Then you move into Epstein. You start with Epstein, nobody's going to believe it. You start with Russia and display concrete evidence, which they have, of misdeeds, true, absolute, real misdeeds. Yeah, then you can get into the J6. You cannot force a horse to drink the water that you're leading them to. You can't.
You can't.
And they're not going to believe this. It has to be told in the way that Donald Trump knows best. If anything, he's a showman. He
Mhm.
knows how to communicate these things instantly. Like, for example, during the campaign, I was really, really impressed that that he had such message discipline in this last campaign, one. And two, that he actually used things like guerrilla marketing, right? The McDonald's effort, the garbage truck. These are things which are visually powerful messages. You don't have to say anything, and boom, the message is across. And he did it so beautifully. So what you're seeing here is Trump telling a story of how all of this happened. And you start out with an Epstein thing, which, by the way, if you look at the way the Democrats have done this all along, they're trying to break up the coalition. Their
Mm.
number one deal is to distract, divide, and demotivate. And so when you have a concerted effort to break up our coalition, which is held together, let's face it, with baling wire and chewing gum, you've got new people in the party, old people, all kinds of folks. But they do agree on some things, but they're poking in the communication sense at different things. As soon as Trump's hand came off the Bible, they started bitching about grocery prices and energy prices and egg prices and gas prices. And then they moved into the tariffs. And then they moved into the big, beautiful bill. And then they moved into Iran. And they kept poking at how can we divide and break up this coalition. They hit upon it with Epstein.
Mm.
And that's why he's saying that it's a hoax, not that the story may not be. The effort, the message points coming from the left, that's the hoax.
That's the hoax. Yeah,
He
that
just
makes
doesn't always
sense.
explain it well.
Yeah, that makes sense. That right there, you hit it. Hit it right on the spot. That is so true.
They're distracting us. Remember what Rush Limbaugh did so well? He kept us focused on the goals and what was important and what hills not to die on and what to ignore and what to take up as a cause that should be worked on. He did that beautifully. Notice when he died, we seem to be running amok.
Mm.
The bumpers are down off of the bowling alley lanes, and we're hitting all kinds of gutter balls here and there.
Wow.
And it's for new people in the political realm who feel they've been lied to on multiple fronts. Okay, so they already have PTSD with that.
Mm.
Then you bring them into this, and their natural reaction is going to be, "See, Trump is just like all the rest of them." Well, no, he's not. He's not perfect, but no, he's not. And it's an unfair characterization, but it's very typical of folks who are new to the political realm to jump to those conclusions, particularly if they've never worked in this process closely on the political battlefield, because it makes no sense. There's no common sense about it. Trust me. None.
Common sense seems to disappear lately because, I mean, that's what Trump is pushing a lot is the common sense. And then you got the leftists that do things that is unheard of and it's like has no common sense to it, which is actually biting them in the rear.
It is. It's painting them in a corner.
Yeah. So crazy that all this stuff is like going on, and I just cannot believe it. And I'm seeing it.
No, I would beg for discernment from your audience. When you figure out that the most obvious story usually is not the truth, when you realize that the state of journalism today has nothing to do with the truth, it is all a political agenda, and they are not remotely interested in presenting the truth from an unbiased way to the American people. They're not interested in that. They're promoting an agenda. And when you realize that it has been blatant, unbelievable, unreal lies, okay, it is, and you're caught in the algorithm of these little silos in terms of how you get your information. My prayer is that your audience will break out of those algorithms and really go and see both sides. See what they're saying. Do some deep dives and look at the entirety of a clip, not just the 10 seconds they put on CBS News, okay, or on MSNBC. Look at the whole thing. And once you realize the spin, and that's a kind word for it, frankly, it's out and out lying. Once you realize the spin that's going on, you will never look at it the same again. And it's good to know what the other side is saying. It's not good to get siloed in your own little world at all.
Correct.
So you know how they're going to come at you, and you know what you need to study up on and how to combat whatever the next argument is and how to dodge and parry.
You know what's really crazy? There was something that Denzel Washington said. I was looking it up. He said this in an interview. It's on YouTube. It's all over the place. He said, if you don't read the papers, you're uninformed. If you read the papers, you're misinformed.
Yes.
And he says, because what they want, they don't care who it hurts.
No.
Or what it is.
No.
They don't care if it's true. They just want to put it out there. Be the first. Make a big headline.
It used to be front page guilty, maybe back page innocent. Now it's no page innocent. They don't even call you for comments. They're Google or Grok journalists at this point.
Yeah.
There are no real journalists. When I went to journalism school, I couldn't even write an adjective in a hard news story that I was doing. I couldn't have told you the political bent of my professors. What I knew was I had to do a 21-word lead in a news story. It had to be straight up. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. 21 words. It could not, say he opined on this. It had to say he said. You had to play it straight down the middle, or one of my very rough, gruff Vietnam War correspondent professors would growl at me. The feature and the opinion classes are down the road here. Go to those classes. There was no place for that kind of bias. But now they don't teach this in journalism school anymore. When I was there, I was sitting in front of an IBM Selectric typewriter writing stories. The day the Challenger crashed, I was in a class. I went out to go to the restroom. There were TVs all of a sudden all over the radio TV department, and they were showing this. I came back in and I told my professor what I'd just seen. He just looked at me, write it. I had to write
Wow.
the story right then and there. And you're sitting at an IBM Selectric typewriter to write the stories. They don't teach those practical tools anymore about writing at all. And we're going to lose it even more with AI. Okay.
Oh,
And
that's
that's a
a big
problem.
topic right there. AI. I don't know how I feel about AI. I think all this is in the Bible. All this
You
is
think it's,
written.
yeah, you think it's some revelations there,
Oh yeah,
huh?
I don't
No,
know. This is so wild.
I'm at a war
AI.
with Grok. Grok and I are in a constant battle because 3 out of 4 times I go to it, it's wrong.
Yeah, it says some things. I'm like, wait 1 second. This is not absolutely like I don't know.
But that's what people rely on, and this is what's so frightening, right? Truth is really important to me. Accuracy is really important to me. And if I don't know the answer to a question, I'll tell you straight up. But I'll also promise you try and find my best to find the answer. Not a lot of people do that. They want to be the big man on campus and they want to be smart and they want to be hailed for their brains, right?
Because a lot of people don't know that Grok and ChatGPT. I think their algorithm is like once you type in a question, they search it through the internet
And
and they
that's
get.
accurate.
They're gonna look at what CNN says and look at what other MSNBC says, and then they gobble it down and put it down. Okay, this is it. But wait 1 second, where you got that information from?
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
not
yeah.
that's not totally true.
No, it's not.
And I'm like, okay, so then you could see it that it's been searching through these other websites, and I'm like, okay, somebody's not telling the whole truth here. So
No.
I need to really do deep research.
And even then, when I'm talking about process arguments, how bills get through at the House or Senate, what's the process? Why is this happening? And who's talking to who and what agenda to make it happen? How are you going to goo your way into that? You can get some of the basics, but you don't have an understanding of the real story. And so that's what I'm trying to do is dispel some myths, hold the coalition together, get the truth out, and support what may be the last best hope we have in this country, if we do have one left. Like I said, we nearly
Mhm.
Thelma and Louise this.
Yeah. And going back to with JD, you
Yeah,
think MAGA is going to be a full support for him?
I haven't seen any polls yet. It's a long time between now and the next presidential. A lot of things can happen. I think his fortunes rise and fall with how successful the Trump administration is in many ways.
Yeah, and he has to
Um,
gain their trust, and I mean, he got. I mean, years goes real. 4 years goes real fast,
yeah,
and this is the time he's gonna have to really push forward and
he
gain their
is.
trust and
Some
win
of
it
it will
because
depend on who he wants for a VP candidate. Some of it will depend on, what the real hot button state of play issues are. Some of it will depend on new rising stars, Am I keeping my eye on the Democratic state of play? Sure. Whether it's Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro, Wes Moore, you know, JD Pritzker, that'd be fun. Each one of them on the other side has their problems. So do we. Marco Rubio seems to have
yeah,
gotten a lot of clout lately. I had my problems with Marco Rubio. I didn't
really, you
trust him.
do?
I didn't I worried about him. And he was Mr. Gang of 8 back in the day, and that
Yeah.
played havoc with a lot of things. He was, one of his mentors was John McCain.
Mm,
And he was just new, I think, in a lot of ways. But I gotta say, I'm really impressed,
me
very
too.
impressed with
I'm
him.
very impressed with him now.
Absolutely. And I know folks have a problem with Pam Bondi. She is not my favorite either. I would have loved Harmeet Dillon in that spot.
Mm,
But at the same time, she's a prosecutor's prosecutor. She thinks in those terms. She hasn't been a defense lawyer, right? It's a
hmm.
different thing. And so you're more institutionally protective in a lot of ways. And
Mm,
yeah, she was blatantly lied to by the Southern District of New York about the Epstein files, right?
yeah.
Um, and that made her look bad for sure.
I
But
think they did that on purpose so she could make herself look bad.
I don't know. Could be. Could be. I don't have any proof one way or the other.
Yeah.
But again,
That's my opinion. I think because it's like, come on, they could have told her the truth, and She
But they
would.
didn't, and they didn't want to. Remember what I said about career bureaucrats who are surrounding them? It's like the Old
Mm-hmm.
West at the OK Corral right now. But at the same time, I'm not excusing any of that. But one thing I don't want to do is give the left a scalp. Okay, do you really want to go through a confirmation process for literally probably the most important department? No.
Hmm.
Okay, you want to try and get that through the Senate right now? That would be
Yeah.
painful.
Yeah.
Painful. And who would you get? Who'd want that? Who'd want that
That's a
gig?
good question.
And
That's a
by the
good
way, that
question.
could be a very long, very painful confirmation process.
Wow.
Okay? Not fun. Not fun. See, whenever the temptation is to simplify and broad brush. So you simplify the answer based on what your understanding is, common sense, real world experience. And then there's DSync.
Mhm.
It has nothing to do with the other at all. And you have to understand there are forces at work there that will
Hmm.
flank you, stab you in the back, cut your legs out from under you at every turn. And to blame the one human being for something or to decide that, oh, we got to replace them because of this. Well, hold on a second. It's the
Hmm.
law of unintended consequences, right? You may want term limits. Do you want powerful staffers? You may want to get rid of Pam Bondi. Oh, okay. Who are you going to get? Who's the sucker going to be to go through that confirmation process? This is all of these things. Oh, you want to get rid of Mike Johnson? Okay. So, really? It wouldn't matter who's got the gavel and sitting in the speaker's chair. All of these things are seemingly easy fixes. They're not. It
Yeah,
might get worse.
that's true.
Never
It's
know.
true. Sometimes it's better off you knowing who your enemies are than to get a new
Yeah.
one and it's going to be even worse. Look at
Sometimes.
right now, Ocasio, AOC, she came out of nowhere and she's just like so, oh my God, I don't even know how she got elected.
Well, she's very, very good at two things. One, social media, and two, raising money. Okay? Very
Yeah,
good.
but it's the stuff that she says. I mean, people don't like. I
I know.
remember her talking about the the farting cows. It was
I
a big.
know.
I'm like, are you seriously? Oh, the planet Earth is gonna be destroyed
Yes.
in so many years. Okay, it's past so many years. Nothing has happened.
Yep. Oh, tell that to Al Gore. Look, AOC is an interesting case study for a number of reasons, communications wise. What's most interesting to me about her, though, she came from a very privileged background, went to Boston University, okay? Very privileged. And then she plays the girl from the Bronx, Jenny on the street, right? Jenny on the
Yeah.
corner. And nothing could be further from the truth. And Benny Johnson on his podcast did a brilliant job exposing her and Jasmine Crockett. But then you see the clips, all right, of things like her arguing that RICO's not a crime with a DOJ lawyer.
Hmm.
You see these misstatements all the time from her, and the bartender comes out. It's just
Yeah.
the bartender comes out. But don't sleep on her because, again, amazing fundraiser and social media. She's really good at that.
Yeah.
And that's a new way of communicating and doing things that the dinosaurs in DC don't really know how to do well. But each one of these folks has problems. I've heard a lot of talk about Governor Wes Moore from Maryland.
Hmm.
Attractive African American governor, doesn't seem like he's in the AOC or the Bernie Sanders camp. Yeah, he's got a stolen valor problem.
Oh yeah, that's right. I heard about that.
When you claim to have you didn't know whether or not you got a Bronze Star.
Hmm.
Did you not look at your DD 214 recently?
Yeah.
How do you not know? I'm curious.
Yeah.
He's going to have to explain that. Each one of these folks has a problem. Gavin Newsom has the albatross around his neck of California. They have a poop
Gosh.
app, for God's sakes, of where poop locations are in San Francisco. Literally. I mean, what
Yeah.
the hell? I mean, it's how in the world do you sit there and say to yourself, "My God in heaven, you have taken one of the most beautiful states on planet Earth, one of the most beautiful locales on planet Earth," which Ronald Reagan said once, if the Pilgrims had landed on the West Coast, they never would have gone east. Now
Hmm.
they'd be running. You can't find a U-Haul in the state of California right now.
Jeez.
Okay, everybody's leaving. DeSantis is going to now put on the ballot in Florida taking away property taxes. Okay? That means your car and your house. How many more are going to move to Florida because of that? Because of the taxation and the crime and the homelessness and the drugs and the cost of living in California versus no state income tax, no property taxes, and a
Yeah.
hell of a lot safer. See, the red
I think with Newsom, oh my gosh, all the stuff that he's done, his record.
Oh,
I don't think
hairdo.
he's
Yeah,
gonna.
Governor hairdo.
Yeah. You know, it's really funny because what was it? I posted something when he put up all this stuff that he puts on X. I go, listen, Gavin, if you couldn't even remotely beat Charlie Kirk in a debate, what
Right.
makes you think you're going to be president?
Well, look, there's not a
Charlie
mayor.
destroyed him on
Yeah,
his
totally.
podcast.
Truly. No, look, there's not a mayor who's ever run for office and become elected who hasn't looked in the mirror every morning and seen a president. Okay, that's just part of being an elected official. You get those things in your head,
Mhm.
Delusions of grandeur. But, he's an attractive candidate in terms of fundraising ability, in terms of communications. He's slick. He's really slick.
They call him the snake.
But he has some issues. I'm telling you, don't California America. We're seeing the destruction of one of the most beautiful states ever. And it's at hands of folks like him, these blue governors who came along and tried all their little ivory tower socialist ideas, and they destroyed this beautiful state. Companies are running away. People are
Yeah.
moving. He burned down Pacific Palisades, for God's sakes. I mean, if it's not fires, it's earthquakes, it's homeless, it's an invasion at the border. He doesn't care. Doesn't care.
And Trump tried to warn him the last time when he
Tried to
was
help.
president. Yeah, he said, listen, we need to get some water over here. We need to
And
get
he's
water flowing.
he's blaming all of this stuff that's happening in California on everybody else but his own policies. And that's, you look at Governor Pritzker and the mayor of Chicago standing at a press conference, what was it, yesterday, day before, saying the unbelievable, saying that the reason why there's crime, and really there's not that much crime, well, first of all, we need more affordable housing. That'll help. And second, all these red states, Indiana and all these other evil, awful red states, they have such lax gun laws. And so all the guns are coming from these other states. What?
That's
You're telling me a
crazy.
corner boy in South Side of Chicago can't put his hands on a weapon in 10 minutes? What?
Oh,
This is their thinking, though. And so they're balking against law and order and getting these criminals off the streets and deporting criminal aliens. But they're not supporting their own constituency, Americans, Californians, Illinoisans, New Yorkers. All of these blue state leaders are forgetting who they work for. Phil Graham used to drive it into my head all the time. Remember who you work for, Kay. You work for the people of Texas. And when you forgot it, you got in trouble. These people have forgotten, and they've lost the plot at this point.
yeah, they did.
At first, when Gavin was tweeting like Trump, it was kind of cute. I thought, okay, this is clever. Now it's just annoying. I mean,
Yeah, now it's to the point, it's like, okay.
No,
Now
I
it's
mean-
boring. Now it's annoying. Now it doesn't even make sense.
no, he's showing not only hubris, but how full of horse shit he is, to be quite
Yeah.
honest.
No professionalism. I mean,
No.
I don't think he's gonna go anywhere. I think he's just gonna make a lot of noise. But I mean, some people out there believe him and they want
Oh,
to
sure.
believe him and they just like go for it.
Oh, sure.
He couldn't answer a simple question when Charlie Kirk, said, "Hey, should boys be allowed in girls' locker room?" And
Yeah.
you see that he like, oh, wait, he stumbled there.
And
He
what is he going to
stumbled.
do once, let's play that out a little. Okay, you have all these gender, transition places and all of that. Great. Why do we care? Well, because it's not only the pharmaceutical and the medical industry that benefits. Always follow the money. Okay, you'll find out, that the money is the most important thing in this.
Yes.
Trial lawyers are next. That kind of cross-gender hormones is incredibly cancer-causing. And when you put them on massive doses for a lot of years, the trial lawyers are going to make out like bandits once the cancer clusters start. And
Yeah.
they're going to be folks who are detransitioning. And, None of it makes sense to anybody who has half a brain. Why would you tell someone with anorexia? Most of your audience may be too young to remember Karen Carpenter from the Carpenters
Yeah.
who had anorexia, right? Why would you tell Karen Carpenter if she comes up to you and says, gosh, I think I need to lose about 25 pounds. I'm feeling really, really fat. Would you indulge that and let her kill herself that way? Or would you try and get her help for the underlying problem?
Yeah.
There's no correlation in any study between suicidality rates lessening or greatening, either before or after a transition. Literally, in the transgender community, they have a higher suicide rate than those folks who came out of the Holocaust.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. I mean, it
Yeah,
used to be
I know.
DSM-5. It used to be on
Yeah.
the DSM-5. It's not anymore. And to me, that means they don't care again.
And they don't report this in the news. This doesn't come out.
No,
This
it
doesn't
doesn't.
come
But the
out.
message is, okay, it's reported in some news. Again, if you're in a silo, right? One of these
Mhm.
communication silos. You're not going to get full spectrum story. So my plea for your audience is to break out of the silo and go see it all. See what the left is saying. See what the right is saying. See what the libertarians are saying. See what the independents are saying. Go and look at all, and I mean all of the footage. Don't look at the little clips they put, the little 10-second clips on. No, look at the whole story because they're selling you an agenda and a narrative. Hating America, believing that we are a colonizing, racist, bigoted, systematic racism, misogynist country from hell, and yet everybody on planet Earth seems to want to come here.
Yeah. What are the odds, right?
Yeah. Where would you... Okay, Ronald Reagan asked an incredible question during that speech, A Time for Choosing, okay?
Mhm.
Way back when. He said, where will you go if you're looking for freedom from here? Where? Where are you going to find a more free, more individual liberty kind of country? You aren't going to find it anywhere else. We're it.
Yeah.
And that's why everybody who can run, jump, swim, hide, go on an airplane, in a car, in a train, in a bus, everybody's trying to get here. Everybody.
Crazy,
From
huh?
all over the world.
From all over the world. And they're trying to escape and come over here because supposedly this is a racist country.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Supposedly. Yeah.
I know as a female, my rights
Wow.
are
I want to go to
totally...
hell. So let me get on a plane ticket and go to America.
I mean, what are you going to do? Go to North Korea?
Yeah.
You're going to try some stuff out in some of the socialist European countries? Venezuela? Cuba?
Oh, my God.
There's not a country on earth besides us that has codified in its founding documents a First Amendment the way it is. We're
Do
it.
you listen to Patrick Bet-David?
I have.
You saw that he went on to
Jubilee?
Jubilee, and he confronted one of the girls, and he says, "Okay, I'll tell you what. It costs what was it, $1,200 or $2,000 to renounce your citizenship,
Yes, I'll
and
pay
I will
that.
pay a ticket.
Name a country.
Name a country. I'll send you there where you want to go." And then she found herself in a corner, and he said, "Well, I'll send you to Cuba. I'll send you. Oh, that's not a communist country. That's not a communist.
So what's the problem? Go.
What's the problem? Tell me where you want to go. I'll pay for it." Bet she was like,
Well,
he got me
and then
there.
he offered a job to that one guy.
Yeah.
Didn't take it. The gal, he said, if you just read this book, no, wouldn't do it. When you aren't willing to grow and listen to the other side, when you aren't willing to even sit down and have a conversation without doing name calling, when you aren't willing to evolve and listen and learn and make it a lifetime learning, that's when you get stuck, when you get triggered by mere words.
Yeah, my words.
That never made sense to me. Why? How does name calling fit into a debate?
Yeah, it's so unprofessional. There's some people you could talk to, but there's some that you just cannot.
Oh.
I mean, recently I had a coworker and trying to tell me Trump is a racist and all this, and I said, wait, stop right there. You think he's a Nazi, racist? Yes, all okay. You and I, we cannot talk politics because you just don't know. You're speaking out of nonsense. And I know some Democrats, and they're professional, and they could okay, this is what I believe. I don't agree with this, but I do agree with this.
And it's lovely to have those
it's
conversations.
beautiful. And you know what? They're they're part of the common sense. I notice that they have to keep kind of quiet because if they say anything too much about certain things and they
Step out
like,
of
listen,
line a
I don't
little.
agree that men could be women, they get roasted by their own people. It's like, okay, what is it now?
Canceled, roasted, fired. I mean, that's not the America I grew up in at all. I grew up in a nation where you respected each other's opinions, religion, politics, faith, family. It was never anything rude. You just had wonderful conversations, and I loved that. I loved that part.
Yeah.
Now you have to have an attorney on speed dial to be involved in politics. And that's a high cost. When they try to bankrupt you, jail you, defame you, debank your children, take away your insurance, your TSA preclaim, all of these things should not be the cost for merely caring about your country and wanting to make it a better place. Whether you're on the left or the right, it doesn't matter to me. No American should be the object of political prosecutions, malicious political prosecutions. Nobody. And that's what we got to get back to, is an understanding that the rule of law is what separates us from so many other nations. Their Constitution does. And we're teetering on that edge of losing that. That scares me to death. I want to leave for my kids and grandkids the beautiful, free, amazing, optimistic powerhouse that America once was. Hopefully, it's not too late. Hopefully, we can turn the Titanic around.
Yes.
But it's getting harder to do that. So I have hope, an awful lot of hope. And I pray that folks will stay involved.
So yeah, there are some good Democrats out there. Honestly, I'm trying to search and think who are out there that you could say, you know what, this person is pretty good. I think Eric Adams,
He has, a bit of moral turpitude.
Yeah,
But look,
because New York right now with Mandoni, that's like freaking scary. Patrick Bet-David said, you know what? I want him to win. I want him to
yes,
win.
Patrick Bet-David is exactly right. And there's a reason for that. Think of the memes. Think of the opposition. I had a friend, Grover Norquist, who runs Americans for Tax Reform, who said, in life has a purpose. Some people it's to be a punching bag. So he will be the foil, the example of why socialism has never worked, should be on the ash heap of history. And all of these ivory tower university liberals who are indoctrinating these kids into believing it's nirvana.
Yeah.
No, honey, it's not. It's not nirvana. It's not utopia. It's screwed up. And wait till you can't find food at your government-owned grocery stores. Wait till crime is out of control because you defunded the police. You call, 911, and a social worker shows up when someone's, trying to kill you. This is the lunacy of the left knows no bounds. But this is actually destructive. The socialism, the Marxism, the communism. Look, all of the things that are going on with the anti-Semitism stuff and all of that, what it really at baseline is a pro-Marxist message. Even with that, that's what the basis of it is. So they've been trying to keep us sort of asleep, not teach us civics, not teach history, right? None of that. So they don't know the history. Oh, but it's never been tried anywhere. Really? Yeah, it has. Go on over to North Korea and see how well you make out there, okay? Yeah. They don't know because they haven't been taught, and instead they're being fed a steady diet of bullshit. And it appeals to their very young ideological sense with no experience behind it. They've never run a business. They've never had a family. They might work, but we aren't poor because Elon Musk is rich. And so the rich are always the target. It's a zero-sum game. And I'm not saying it doesn't sound lovely and wonderful, but I also know it doesn't work. That competition, the free market, less regulation, less taxes, making sure that the people who are pulling the wagon aren't outnumbered by the people who are in the wagon being pulled.
Correct.
And we literally have a budget that's out of control. We have waste, fraud, and abuse all the way throughout. And government is not the answer for everything. Looking to government, there's a great book I want to recommend. It's called The Tragedy of American Compassion by Dr. Marvin Olasky. And back at the turn of the last century, there were so many volunteers in churches, charities, and all of that for every person in need in this country. Dozens of those folks. Government has replaced that. And you can't pay people to care. You just can't. Either you care or you don't. And government is a one-size-fits-all, inefficient, red tape bureaucracy from hell. I would rather look what happened in Hurricane Helene in North Carolina. Who stepped up? Was it FEMA or was it the charity organizations, the churches, the Amish? The Amish are still there building houses. I mean, this is
Trump, when he came in, he won. He went immediately there.
Yes, exactly.
I
He
remember
didn't do a
that. I saw that.
flyover, right? Remember during Katrina when George W. Bush just kind of flew over New Orleans and looked from a plane window?
Yeah.
No.
He was there.
Handing out water.
Yep. He was there.
Look at what he did with the Gold Star families from Afghanistan, from Abbey's Gate. He met with those families for hours. Biden and his folks, the compassionate, tolerant ones, couldn't be bothered to pick up the phone and even call them. All right. This is the difference. What they say and what they do are two very different things.
Very different. Action speaks louder than words.
It should.
It should. But they didn't. I remember that. I was saying, man, that people are still suffering from that hurricane. That hurricane's passed like almost a year now. What's going on?
Because no one showed up. FEMA had spent its money on the illegal barbarians at the gate that came running across it. That's where the money went. And so, sorry, no help for you. And oh, by the way, if you have a Trump sign in your front yard, you're really screwed.
Yeah,
then
we're
we'll
gonna skip
really
you.
pass you up. And people were dying in the middle of winter in the Great Smoky Mountains of North Carolina and Appalachia. They don't trust government anyways. This did not help. But what did help are the throngs of volunteers, Americans with a heart, who went in, gave up their time and their treasure to help their fellow Americans that they didn't even know. And a lot of them are still there, rebuilding, and Elon Musk sending all the Starlinks there so that the law enforcement agencies and the first responders first could even talk to each other.
Yes, right. I remember that.
Yeah. I mean,
He'd offer that.
how is Elon the enemy when what he's done is rescue astronauts? When Biden left him up on the International Space Station, he's given Starlink to many folks in disaster areas in need. Pacific Palisades, East Palestine, Western North Carolina. He has donated his time and his treasure, and they're accusing a billionaire, the world's wealthiest man, of going in and stealing from our government? What?
When he was a Democrat, he didn't got none of this stuff.
It's ludicrous.
Was he always a Democrat, or was he more
No, he was. I'm sure he was. No, he was.
He was, right? Yeah. Because
What
he was
really
loved by then. All these people were like,
Right?
oh, we got to get a Tesla.
We gotta get a
save
Tesla.
the earth. Now they started burning the Teslas and doing all
know.
that stuff after. But you know what's funny?
Hmm.
After he had the fallout with Trump,
Yep.
all that kind of like ceased.
Didn't
It
it,
kind
though?
of stopped a little bit. You didn't hear so much about people scratching keying or burning Teslas.
Maybe
It's
they
like, wait a
figured out that
second.
it's surrounded by cameras on Teslas and they're getting caught.
Yeah.
Here's some real
But
Mensa candidates
because when
out
he
there.
had that fallout, they started like, you see, now Elon knows the truth about Trump and all this
No.
and that. I was like, wait, something is
No.
not right here.
First of all, he was only supposed to be there in his particular position in the government. It wasn't Senate confirmed. It was a 120-day appointment. That was scheduled. Second of all, like I said, he ran into the buzzsaw that's the deep state, and he wasn't able to just walk in there as Mr. CEO billionaire and, snap his fingers and things happen, which is what he's used to. He ran into folks who have an agenda to destroy Trump at all costs, and he didn't understand that at all. And that's where the problems started for him. And then he got into the arguments over stuff and the sniping with other cabinet folks. And because he wanted things done now, Mr. Bring in a kitchen sink, right? And so he was frustrated, and I understand that. And because he's a little spectrum-y, he lashed out, right?
Yeah.
And clearly he's backed off of things like starting another party. He's recognized the foolishness of that.
Yeah, I haven't heard about that anymore.
No, you won't. It was a foolish idea. How are you going to? Ross Perot couldn't do it. There's so many. John Anderson couldn't do it. There's so many people who have tried to do this, and the amount of infrastructure, time, organization. Ask Robert F. Kennedy how easy it is as an independent to get on all these state ballots.
Hmm.
Not that
Wow.
easy, is it?
It was. Oh.
Okay, and he's political royalty.
Hmm.
And he couldn't do it, okay? You gonna be able to do that, Elon?
Yeah.
You think you know until you get in there and you run into that buzzsaw. That was my main concern when Trump first ran. He doesn't know what he's getting into, and I wanted to see him succeed. But I also knew that there was a cadre, millions of deep state, former political appointee, career bureaucrats you cannot fire who were gunning for his agenda and would cut him off at every single opportunity. And they were enabled, unfortunately, a lot of times by the political appointees that should never have been put into place.
Wow.
Now, he went to school on that, learned that, and, also coming in as a billionaire CEO, ran into the same buzzsaw, but he's 4 years behind Trump's learning curve on this.
Yeah. Trump learned a lot from his first term. And then
Yeah.
coming back, he had already in mind who he was going to pick, how he's going to pick them. And he got the best of the best. He got really good people.
And they wrote some 300 executive orders before they even hit on day one. Okay. That was planned from day one.
Yeah.
Way
very
before
planned.
to the America First Foundation. The difference with the people he picked, and this is a really important difference. Usually, a lot of these nominees are very deferential to the media, to the powers that be on Capitol Hill. What
Mhm.
you're seeing is pushback. What you saw yesterday, for example, with RFK in the committee, standing his ground, not ceding it. When you see Tulsi doing that, when you saw Cash doing that, when you see Pete Hegseth doing that, this is a new breed of nominee. Now, it's not that they're pushing their own agenda, which I kind of worried with Marco Rubio. They know they are there, and Kennedy knows it as well as anybody. They're there to serve at the pleasure of the president and implement his agenda. It's not about them. And they will fight to make that happen. Usually nominees going through a confirmation process and certainly going to answer to their bankers on Capitol Hill, they're not going to fight back like that. These folks are, because the American people wanted it, voted for it, demanded it, and wanted this kind of a change. In fact, I would venture to guess that a lot of the changes that have been happening, we didn't even know we wanted. It's just like Christmas every day.
Yeah. Something new.
It is, but it's not going to be all roses and lollipops. And there's going to be ups and downs.
Yeah.
I want your audience to know, just because you have a loss in a battle doesn't mean the war is over. Learn from it. Understand what happened. And then double down. Don't stop at all. This is too important, Jeff. It's very, very often new folks in politics. Well, that's it. I'm done. I didn't get what I wanted on this. They didn't release the Epstein files. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. This isn't what I voted. No, that's not what to look for. What to look for is a pattern and a mode of operation that shows forward propulsion in any way, shape, or form. If you're upset that the big, beautiful bill wasn't a single page and a single issue bill, welcome to the party, folks. We don't have everything in there we want. We have stuff in there we don't want. But if we have 60% in that Hill situation with those majorities that are narrow, take it and run. That's as good as it's going to get right now.
Good as it's going to get.
It is.
So for a lot of my audience, a lot of them are youngsters and, in their 20s, mid-20s and 30s.
My kid's age.
So, well, you look very young.
I'm 58.
Really?
I swear to God, 58
Holy
years old.
smack.
I was born in
Jeez.
1966.
My goodness.
Graduated high school in 1984.
Jeez. Well, you look very young for your age.
Thank you. Thank you. Staring 60 down.
For them that are are new because a lot of this generation, a lot of them are. I see a lot of them are liberals. I see a lot of
Yeah,
hidden conservatives. They
right,
keep quiet.
right.
A lot of them are streamers. They can't
Yeah,
even say anything. There was a very popular streamer that has millions of followers.
I think I know who
All
you're
he
talking
said,
about.
he
My
said,
kids keep me up to date on those things.
yeah. What did he say? Keep children out of all the situations, you
Right,
know. So, and then he got in trouble. He got,
right.
banned for I don't know a month or so. He got kicked out of this organization. He got and some I was just for saying keep children
Yeah,
out of it. Out of this
yeah.
all
After
this
18,
ideology,
do what you
and
want
still.
to.
Yeah, after 18, go ahead, free will. Go
Knock
ahead, do what
yourself
you want
out.
to do. Just obey the law. We recommend just
But
obey the
why
law.
do the
But
kids?
yeah, so but what do you recommend these youngsters? What books do you say recommend for them to read to open up their mind? A lot of them get confused of what news organizations to listen to. I know some of them, both left and right, say certain things. Fox one time when Trump lost in 2020 kind of went against them. And then you're like, wait 1 second, I thought you were pro Trump. And then Fox went a little bit derailing on certain issues.
Sure.
CNN, of course, is always going to go. They're going to go for their people. MSNBC, forget about it. You can't even trust anything because they're just so
The
much
View.
hatred.
One of my personal favorites, The View.
Oh gosh, that's even. You can't even
You
go
want to
there.
torture me? Literally duct tape me to a chair, super glue my eyes open, and make me watch those bitches.
Oh, that's
Torture for
that's
me.
torture.
That and Lifetime Television and Hallmark.
So what books out there? What do you recommend them to open up their eyes to be neutral to see the things a little bit different than what they're used to seeing?
It's a long, hard journey when you want to discover what your North Star beliefs are.
Hmm.
And it's a lifetime journey. You're not going to just end up at my age and know everything. I don't at all. It's a
Right.
constant learning. I started way back when in fourth grade. My mother was a fan of the Wall Street Journal back when it was a real paper. And she'd get it. And in the center column on the front page, there were these little like teaser stories. Okay. And they were from all the main stories across the world. And then it would say, continued on page 4. I was in fourth grade, didn't want to give my mother the satisfaction of knowing I was kind of interested. And I'd read down that center column because she wanted to introduce me to news and the world and how it worked. So I'd sneak looking in at the stories, and I got more and more interested. And I realized the beauty of powerful writing. And whether it's on the left, whether it's on the right, read a broad range of things. You know, read Alexander Solzhenitsyn's Gulag Archipelago, which is about a Soviet dissident who was thrown into a gulag for talking about freedom and
Mhm.
liberty in Russia, in the Soviet Union. Read things like Marcus Aurelius. Read things like Sun Tzu, Art of War. Read all the great philosophers from Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, the founding of the Republic, all the way to de Tocqueville. Expand what you're learning in an economics course. Don't be satisfied with just reading Karl Marx. Look at Milton Friedman, Nobel Peace Prize winning economist.
Yeah.
My favorite quote of all time came from him in economics. Government spends whatever government receives, plus whatever else it can get away with.
That's true.
Read Dr. Thomas Sowell. Read Dr. Walter Williams. Read Saul Alinsky, Rules for Radicals on the left.
Right.
If you go to Speaker Newt Gingrich's website, I think it's newtgingrich.com, he always has book lists, and he was a history professor. And it's a wide range of books. It's not just political books. It's history. It's about development of technology. It's just the way America can move forward. You can read all the John Locke's, and you can read, Adam Smith, and you can read all of these things. I started out with things like God and Man at Yale with William F. Buckley. I started looking at speeches, the great speeches from William Jennings Bryan, Teddy Roosevelt, FDR, John Kennedy, Ronald Reagan, Obama. You have to understand the full breadth to understand where your North Star is. All of these things will push you forward. Read things from the Heritage Foundation. There's a lot of stuff there in every subject. Read things from the Brookings Institute. That's on the left. Okay. Understand where the agendas are. Go to mrc.org, Media Research Center.org. Understand how the media has been doing this to us for years. They have a whole catalog of information. Go to cagw.org, Citizens Against Government Waste. Realize that Doge wasn't the first, that since 1971, Citizens Against Government Waste every year, literally they have gone through line by line in every federal budget and picked out all the waste, fraud, and abuse for everybody to see. This was not a secret by any
That's not.
stretch of
And
the
I remember Obama mentioned about government waste, and he said about the fiddling company or
Yes.
fiddling singing group, whatever. He says we're paying
Yes.
wasting money
Bridges
on
to
this. You remember
nowhere.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bridges to nowhere.
Obama.
And all of it was BS, okay, Jeff? All of it was to fund a growing Marxist effort, okay? Read, God, there's so much out there, and it's a wonderful job of describing. If you haven't read the founding documents, go read them. Go read the Federalist Papers, all of them. This is how our country was founded. Go to places like PragerU. They have wonderful little videos on things. Go look at Thomas Sowell's things. He's got 92 years on this earth, and he started out as a liberal. Understand the agenda that things are going through, but the lens, the filter of the agenda that they're being presented in. But don't be afraid simply because you disagree with it, not to read it and not to add it to your understanding. I don't care if you read Descartes, Nietzsche, read the great philosophers. All of this will add to your knowledge. I used to be very pro-choice. Then I started understanding the origins of the feminist movement, the breakup of the family, the genocide on the Black family, the taking Black fathers out of the household. Margaret Sanger as a eugenicist, putting all the Planned Parenthoods in lower income neighborhoods. Go to, in almost every state, there is a state-run, state-oriented, amazing foundation that focuses on state issues, like the Texas Public Policy Foundation. They put out policy papers all the time. The young folks need to understand they weren't taken seriously for a long time because although they get out there and protest and stomp around, they wouldn't vote. They just didn't vote in big numbers. But for years, there's been an effort now to go onto campuses. Like Charlie Kirk was not the first, and he won't be the last. But there were a lot of folks that came before him that started working those campuses and breaking through on issues they cared about. Can you buy a home? What's the feminist movement done, in your estimation, to how you see things? What do you think about the draft? You want to go fight a war somewhere? Things that mattered to them, and Charlie has really marshaled messaging that is understandable and all of that. But Steven Crowder did it too with the Change My Mind stuff out there, right? Before that, there was, there was an Accuracy in Academia. They would go out there and do that. Ben Shapiro would go on campus. Milo Yiannopoulos. All these folks went to campuses, and Riley Gaines, all these people went out and reached out to young people and made them start thinking about these things and thinking deeply about issues. And you don't have to have all the answers now. Understand that the legacy media is not necessarily your friend. I've been involved with them for a long time, and they're feeding you a line. Trust and believe. So go wide with where you consume your media. Every morning I go to Citizen Free Press, because it's an aggregator, a news aggregator, and it lists and it updates every few minutes, just all these stories it links to all over the place. Okay.
And what's that called?
Citizen Free Press.
.com.
Okay. Yes, it used to. Drudge Report was the go-to, and then Drudge, of course, sold it to a bunch of leftists, so it went to hell in a handbasket. Go to things like Two Way. I love Two Way. Two-way.tv, and it's also on X. It's run by a journalist and one of the last investigative journalists. His name is Mark Halperin, and he's got a lifetime in journalism. He's got two co-hosts. One of them is Sean Spicer, who was press secretary for Trump in Trump 45, and Dan
Yes.
Turrentine, who's a Democrat consultant. So he's got the
Mm.
whole spectrum there. And then he's got basically like a Zoom call, where thousands, and I'm telling you, everybody who's in the corridors of power is watching this show.
What's the
And
name of the show again?
it's called Two Way, the number two,
Two-way.
and then WAY. It's on every morning, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. And that's called the morning meeting. They're building a platform.
Oh.
And then at like 5 or 6, then Mark comes in for the day's wrap up. They run it like a newsroom meeting. They go through the day book, where the president's going to be, the vice president, what events are going on in Washington, who's in the pool, the press pool, who's been assigned where. And then they go through news of the day, what the big stuff is. They hear it from all perspectives. And then they open it up, and they have usually like 3 folks come up they pick from the Zoom call that's going on, basically, to come up. And
Wow.
they're from all over the country, and they're all different, you know, political persuasions. And
Mm.
it's not nasty or hateful. They have guests sometimes, who come in.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sean Spicer has his own show and all that. And then you see Mark Halperin on Megyn Kelly's platform in a new show called Next Up. I like Megyn Kelly a lot and what she's
too.
doing. She's brilliant. She's a lawyer. She tells it like it is. Love her. Love her.
Yeah.
You've got some old school journalists or opinion hosts, who are true believers, but their purpose and messaging is different than an independent podcaster. Okay. Sean Hannity's doing a different job than a Megyn Kelly
Yeah.
or than a
very
Charlie
different,
Kirk
yeah. Mm-hmm.
or a Joe Rogan. They're doing different things and hitting different audiences. The president did an amazing thing that I think is translated well from his campaign. He built a communications coalition, which was remarkable. Okay. It wasn't just him out there messaging. You had J.D. Vance, you had Tulsi Gabbard, you had Vivek Ramaswamy, you had Charlie Kirk, Tucker Carlson. Each one of these people hit a different audience that he might not necessarily be able to reach, right? And it was brilliant. They came from all sides, Democrats, independents, conservatives. They came from all sides of the political spectrum. That's the coalition we're holding together. That's what you should consume as news, as education materials, and be skeptical. Absolutely be skeptical. Question everything. Absolutely everything. If you aren't satisfied with the answer, dig deeper. Find the whole thing. But don't go down the rabbit hole so deep that you lose sight of what the important thing is. If you can't find the answer, it's okay. It's all right. It's
Mm-hmm.
not a race. But read as much as you can on all of it. Go to Newt Gingrich's site, check out his book list, read Mark Levin's books. The reason why I like him, again, he explains things so beautifully. Men in Black on judicial nominees.
Mm.
Amazingly important. I know he's pissed people off at times,
Yeah.
but at the same time, he is a legal genius. He just
Oh,
is.
yeah.
So you take the good, you don't dismiss because of the bad.
Mm-hmm.
Look, there are things that Bill Maher says I think are fabulous.
Yes, that's another. I started listening to him now because ever
Right?
since he went with, got to meet Trump, his perspective, his perspective
he
of
was-
him changed.
He was a First Amendment absolutist, right? The
Mhm.
entire time because of what cancel culture was doing to comics. And so he's been consistent on that. Is he wrong about a whole bunch of stuff? Sure.
Yeah.
But he has a place in the communications universe. And I will dismiss the bad, but I'll take the good
Same
and
here.
learn from it.
Yep.
Because there's so many wonderful voices out there. And of course, go to my show, The Daily Fix. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. on live on X.
There you go.
This is, part of the challenge is going to be for this next generation to have the discernment, not rely on the cheap, quick answers for things, because that's how we got into this in the first place. Why would this person on MSNBC lie to me? Why would CNN lie to me? Why? It's an entire agenda in information industrial complex that is trying desperately to push an agenda that takes away your freedom. That's what it's doing. And So the more you can read, the more you can consume, the more you can be willing and open to having discussions with people who might not necessarily agree with you. If it's really
Mhm.
scary and really hard, just start asking questions. What made you think that? Don't confront them or call them names. Just ask them questions. Oh, where'd you get that information? Wow. Can you send me the link? So why do you think it's a good idea for 9-year-old to start cutting off body parts? I mean, how does that work in your world, and who should pay for it? And what if they change their minds? And you start asking questions, but you're not hostile about it. You can
Hmm.
be diplomatic, you can be kind, make your boundaries. Don't let them abuse you or call you names or any of that. But if you have someone who you can talk to, you're planting seeds and you never know what's going to grow.
That's true. That's true. There's this guy that I also like to see. He's on X a lot. That's Kaizen.
I've heard the
You
name,
know,
yeah.
yeah, very smart,
Oh, yeah.
intelligent.
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy is good. He's a black guy. He has dreads. I don't know where he's
I
from.
love it.
And he's been asked to be on several shows, and I'm like,
Mhm.
wow, because they see how serious and how educated he is, and he comes on and gives out his opinion, and it's like phenomenal.
And
Phenomenal.
that's
And
what we
Patrick Bet
need.
Dave is the other one, he's really good. His podcast is really good as well. I
Look at
tell
what
people
Brandon
just listen
Strzok is
to.
doing. I mean, Brandon Strzok started the Walkaway Foundation, right? And
Mhm.
because he was a Democrat, hairdresser in New York, he's gay, loved Hillary Clinton, and went into a complete spiral when
Yeah.
when she lost. But someone approached him who he had known since childhood, who actually had babysat him. And he was all upset because of, like, I think it was the Charlottesville thing. I can't remember what it was, but he couldn't understand why Americans would vote for Trump. He was horrified by it, was rage posting everywhere. And he, uh, he was approached, though, by an old friend who said, "Look, I don't want to start anything with you. I love you dearly, but why don't you take a look at the whole clip here? Just tell me what you think." That brought him to a journey where he started something called Walkaway. He realized, "Oh my God, CNN's been lying to me. Who knew?" And that started an entire journey for him where he decided to post a video on why he was walking away from the Democratic Party. It's not that he's walking to the Republican Party, but he was tired of being lied to.
Yeah.
So this started an entire organization where people were posting videos just like that.
Mm.
He is the most creative, accessible, brilliant, talented voice that we've been missing. And we're not requiring people to join MAGA or join the Republican Party or anything. What we're requiring is that you just think about it.
Think about, open up your mind,
Yeah,
study,
it's not going to hurt.
read,
It's
gain
not going to
knowledge.
hurt. And he has done more good in terms of walking. Scott Peterson, what
Yes.
he's done with the voter registration. Okay. And again, Charlie Kirk, the crowds he was getting during the campaign on the campuses, remarkable. There was
Yes.
something happening out there, and it wasn't just with young men. It wasn't just with young women either. Young women were coming over in droves too. They don't talk about that. Okay,
Mhm.
it was the African American community. It was Hispanics. We blew the
Yes.
doors off the Hispanic vote in Texas. I mean, this is a revolution that's happening by people who are fed up and tired of being tired.
True.
And we need to make sure that we fulfill the promises that have been made. That's incredibly important because these are also groups and individuals who've been lied to for generations and decimated. Their entire communities decimated because of it. We need to keep that promise that we want every American to succeed in this country and have the opportunity that's been given to us, endowed by our Creator with these
Amen.
inalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And
Amen.
we have to embrace that and leave it for future generations. On my tombstone, it's not going to say she wrote really great press releases. It's going to
Mhm.
say wife and mother. So if there are any parents out there, it is up to you to live up to those words on your tombstone. It's going to say husband and father. It's going to say wife and mother. You have an obligation because those kids are your legacy. That's your legacy. Nothing else you do in your life is going to matter as much. I don't know of one person who's been on their deathbed who said, gosh, I wish I really worked more. They wish they'd spent more time with their families. Your kids
Yes.
need time. Your kids need your guidance. Your kids need boundaries. Your kids need your instruction, not to give them dogma and pull them into your worldview, but to allow them to learn how to critically think and how to discern what is truth. And that's part of being a good person on this planet. It's not just paying taxes and dying. It's literally learning all along the way and being a productive citizen and going out and getting involved in your state and local party and becoming a precinct chair or running for office or working on a campaign or whatever it is. But participate and pass that sense of duty on to the kids in your world. And you won't believe, kids will rise to the level that you challenge them to rise to. And part of that is supplementing their education. I always did. And I made history an adventure when they learned it. I made civics an adventure when they learned that. And they had real life examples right there in Washington, D.C. I would take my kids with me to the White House for meetings. And,
Wow.
little Patrick would be sitting there in a stroller and he'd be dripping Cheerios all over the White House. And, I'd be on my hands and knees picking him up. Secret Service loved me. But it gave them a context for why we need to care about the country. Your veterans in your family have given you that freedom, and do not do not squander it. We owe them.
We sure do. Well, Kay, I know we could go much deeper,
Hmm.
but what I did with this segment, having you on, is bringing you in as someone that knows about politics, having everybody to know who you are, get used to you. And now I'm going to bring
And
you
then
on
run
for a
away
next.
screaming.
Yeah, next time I'm going to bring you on and then we're going to go deeper into other topics because I know you got more stories to tell.
Any
Yeah,
issues,
I know
any
you
kinds
got
of things you
stuff.
need,
Yeah,
any
I want
fun
to bring
stories
you
about
on.
Bill Clinton? No.
Yes. No, I got you because I know this is not going to be the first time, but I want everybody to know who you are, what you're about, all the knowledge. And then on the next time, we're going to go into more deeper stuff and and get into that section. But yeah, I know the time is of essence and I know we're going to have to be cutting here soon, but thank you so much for coming on. Thank you. It's such an honor having you and talking to the listeners I have now. Is just got my report from my host provider that provides for the podcast that spreads out 70 countries. I got listeners in
That's
70 countries
wonderful.
now. I remember starting off with 3 and
Hey,
now
right?
I got listeners in
That's
70 countries.
wonderful.
Taiwan, New
Yeah.
Zealand. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Isn't that
People,
awesome?
it's awesome. It's really nice. I love it.
And it's wonderful to hear their perspectives too. It
Yeah.
really is to learn from other people's experiences across the globe. It's really important.
It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. No, well,
So
thank you for having me on.
yeah, honor it's an honor. Like I said, thank you for coming on.
Of course.
But I give everybody a minute of stage to tell you. Go ahead and give out your socials, where they can
Oh, my.
find you, etc. The stage is yours.
Well, you can find me on X first and foremost. It's at Daily Tweet. That's DALY Tweet. I'm on Truth Social. I think it's Daily Truth. I'm on Chatter, Daily Chat. Again, DALY. I'm on Facebook. Let's see, what else? Too many things. I think I'm on TikTok. Haven't really explored that as much. I'm starting to. On Instagram, under my own name. You'll find me any place like that. But also, I've got the Daily Fix, which is a basically one and a half hour show, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a live stream podcast. I'm on there every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Mondays and Wednesdays, you'll find me on X in a space called the Pub Chat at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I work with a wonderful guy named Drax. I will actually be on Drax's Pit, 10 p.m. tomorrow night. God help me. We have a whole bunch of amazing shows there and a real great little family. I'd love for you guys to come over. My DMs are open if you guys ever have any questions. Please don't hesitate to ask. I love helping young folks and helping people who have an interest in saving their country.
Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
more than you know.
Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, folks, you know what time it is. Till next time, God bless. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode on the Rascals Lounge podcast, and please don't forget to follow us on X and on your favorite podcast platform.